What's up, YouTube? This is Roy.
This is Joey.
And we're from Third Duelist. Today we're going to be discussing whether or not changing the deck minimum is a viable option. And this is a reaction to the video GalacticGod did. Basically, he kind of came up with an idea that with games like Magic having a 60 card minimum and being resource based, whether or not that would be viable for Yu-Gi-Oh, since Yu-Gi-Oh is not really a resource based deck, as he argued. So this is basically our reaction to that.
Well, first off, I haven't actually seen the video, so why don't you explain to me what his opinion was, and then we'll...
I mean, he was a bit on both sides. He liked the idea of having a 60 or 50 card minimum, because then certain archetypes where they don't have enough room to include all their monsters would have room. You could also, with certain decks that only run a few, like they only run the best ones, and the mediocre ones they don't even use, they now have the room, they can use them, they can tech them in. Like with Madolches, there's not really room to run Marble Maid, but it's not a terrible card, and I mean, you could have room to run that. Certain decks with a whole bunch of monsters like Mermails would now have room to run
Other stuff.
Basically, kind of evening out the playing field a bit, I think is where he was going with it. I mean, that's mostly what I got from his video, is basically decks that don't have the room or didn't play enough now have the room to play more stuff.
Alright, well, I feel like it was a stupid-ass idea, and I'll explain why. First of all, Yu-Gi-Oh is by far the fastest of all of these TCGs, I guess you'd call them, all these trading card games, where, I mean, Magic, like, I've played Magic, I haven't played Vanguard, and I know how the Pokemon game plays, but Magic is super slow, Pokemon's even slower, and I don't know much about Vanguard, but Yu-Gi-Oh is different, and this is what I feel like this is a benefit to Yu-Gi-Oh, is where it's fast. Yu-Gi-Oh is the fastest by far in my personal experience, and it's to the point where we're playing stupid cards like Upstart Goblin. Draw one card so your opponent gains 1,000 life points, and it's to the point where we're trying to thin down our decks even more, and I feel like adding more cards, we're just going to find more stupid cards to play like that, so we don't have to play more monsters than we want to. And Yu-Gi-Oh, as a game where making you play more cards isn't going to make the game any... Like, I don't feel like that'd make the game any more fun, where you're just going to have more cards where you're going to have to dig even deeper. And even in decks like... If they made me play 50 cards in Sylvans, I'd just find a way... I'd throw in, like, Reckless Greeds and stuff so I could just draw my stuff faster. I wouldn't play any, like, Traps of Substance or more Sylvans, probably. But just adding cards is not... I don't think it's a viable idea. You can't just go around changing the rules, goddammit. You can't just change the rules of the game. Like, oh, you have to play 50 cards now.
I mean, it's Konami. You never know.
I mean, they're asshats anyway, yeah. But
I mostly agree with you on pretty much everything you said. I see where you're coming from with it. My only thing is, I've played a few of the decks where the space is a bit tight to fit in 40, and heaven forbid you play 41 cards.
Hey, you're not obligated to play 40.
I mean,
but as a person with a brain, you play 40.
Yeah, and you want to play your minimum, but if there's more stuff you want to fit in, I feel like maybe 45, maybe 50. I mean, I'm not too opposed to that, but I mean, making the minimum 60, I think, is a bit excessive. Also, if you do increase the minimum for the main deck, I feel like you should for the extra deck too, and that also poses some problems, because toolbox decks are just going to have more tools.
I mean, I like the game as it is, personally. I mean, Konami sucks, but the game mechanics as they are fine with me. It's the everything else that I have problems with. But the game mechanics, 40 cards, 15 extra, I mean, I'm comfortable with that, and I think it works the way we have it right now. So I don't think we need to change anything. I think just making players play more cards is going to lead to less speed and more sitting around staring at each other like Magic, while you try and grab your lands. So I feel like the game mechanics themselves are fine.
I feel like it was a great idea to talk about. And in theory, it wouldn't be too bad, but I mean, you did bring up the point where you're just gonna run more copies of what you already have, run more draw
Reckless.
cards.
Yeah, I mean, just
searching.
gonna try and
I
get
mean,
through your deck. You're
since everyone's gonna do that, I mean, it's gonna be redundant.
pointless. Like the
But
goal, everyone's trying to dig through their decks so fast. Like that's all the decks do. They just dig for more stuff. And if you just make them play more cards, they're just gonna play more cards to dig through their stuff, and it's not. There's not gonna be a point to it. Just by like making players play more cards isn't gonna make like Shadol's play more back row or Satellar Knights play more monsters.
I
You're
mean,
gonna play more cards to get to the stuff you want.
if you wanted to, like me personally, I might run like if the minimum went to 50. I might throw in a few of those really good traps that I just didn't have room in the main for originally, just because I now have the room. But I mean, yeah, again, you're gonna still play more draw cards, more search cards. So overall, I think it was a great idea. It was just it's not gonna be really viable, and we shouldn't really change something that's not broken. And I feel like the deck minimum and the extra deck minimum aren't broken, so we don't need to really change them.
Well, anyway, tell us what you think on the topic, and let us know in the comments below.
And don't forget to go check out Galactic God if you have not. Fantastic YouTuber, really good content. And we'll have a link to this video that we are reacting to, so you can check that out too in case you want some
to know
background.
what we're talking about.
Yeah. But anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe.